to the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Dr. Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee and this is my show. Guys, we've got such an exciting one for you today. I spoke to Sarah Pinborough. So she is the best-selling author behind Her Eyes and Insomnia, both of which have been adapted to be major TV shows now. You've got Behind Her Eyes you can find on Netflix now as well as in book form. And the same with Insomnia, but it's on Paramount Plus, not on Netflix. The reason why we've had this one shelved for a little while was it was recorded back in March at the Sci-Fi Weekender. And Sarah asked that we just held this back until Insomnia was released. And then it was just kind of timing to release it. But anyway, it is now ready for you to enjoy. This recorded on audio. It was a live stage interview. So unfortunately, just with the setup, I couldn't set up a video feed. But I recorded the audio and I've set it to some pictures, one of which is with me and Sarah and other ones of Sarah and her books. But anyway, I digress. Without further ado, please enjoy this week's show. And as it'll go straight into the credits, I'll say it now. In a world where you can be truly anything, until we meet again, please be kind and enjoy this week's show.
Sorry.
And by the way, I'd just like to point out, we haven't put her on the naughty chair or anything. She's got a bad back, so there is a reason.
Now, I have to say that Sci-Fi Weekend has been fabulous with my myriad injuries looking after me. So I feel you've been a very naughty boy. This is going to be slightly...
Why, madam? It's going to be one of those interviews, is it? Yeah, it feels like you've almost done something out of one of your books, like you've gone through this horrific accident.
I know, it was a bit brutal, but I'm on the mend.
Yeah, if this was one of your books, we'd have 5 suspects, 3 of which are red herrings straight off the bat.
One would be a dog.
One would be a dog, who used to be a human, but there was a mind swap. Something which, I was sort of like immersed myself in your stuff ready for this interview. I wasn't familiar before, I'll be honest, but it's like, it's a really... But I'm a big fan now, but not so much suddenly. No, but it's really great. I kind of like, I love when you discover a new writer and you kind of like get certain themes from it. What things for you are kind of like important in your work, like the running themes that you're very conscious of?
I didn't think we were going to talk about serious things.
Talk about something else if you want.
I think probably, my mother always says I'm flighty, and I'm flighty with genres as well as flighty in my general life. So within all of them, whether I'm writing fantasy or crime or fairy tales or whatever, I think how your childhood molds you as an adult is probably the key theme. I mean, bad shit happens in all of them, but the key theme is what happens to you in your childhood and how it turns you into the adult you are today. See what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, some of which kind of I was really struck by, which you've done really successfully, which isn't always the case with, you start things off like in the books which I've been reading, in a very kind of like normal world, and then things get progressively weirder, and then some supernatural elements come in. It's very interesting how you do that. Is that kind of a concept, or is it just that's how it comes out for you?
Well, I kind of was... To start with, I was very overtly fantasy and horror. Like my first 6 novels were straight horror novels, and then I was reading people like John Connolly, and I realised you could have real world and then slowly creep in weird stuff. And I really wanted to creep in weird stuff, but I also wanted to make a lot of money. So I thought, how can I write a very commercial book and still put a load of weird shit in, because I'm a weird shit, as we all are, weird shit people, So I kind of found that was that. So Behind Her Eyes was the first one, I think, that I did that in.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit about backstage. A major Netflix series now. Well done, congratulations.
My favourite thing about that, when the whole Behind Her Eyes things happened, was the actress in it, Eve Hewson, she did some chat show in America, big chat show, and she was talking about Brad Pitt and how he was making a film about motor racing. And she had said, oh, I really want to be in that film, and her agent had the same agent, and she was like, I'll just be a pit stop girl, whatever, I want to be in that film. So her agent rang Brad Pitt while they were at lunch and said, oh, I've got Eve Hewson here, and she wants to be in your movie. And he was like, yeah, she can be in my film, I've watched Behind Her Eyes twice. And I was like,
wow. That's not bad feedback.
I was like, will you have sex with me too? I never got an answer.
He'd been a very naughty boy too.
Oh, he would have been a very naughty boy.
Very naughty. How did it come about with the Netflix series, and were you kind of like concerned going in what needed to keep in and what could be adapted?
Well, when that book came out, it was one of those books that was courted by Hollywood. They announced it very well. The US deal was very big. So I went and I did lots of meetings with lots of producers, and then when I was back in England, I went to meet with Left Bank, and they wanted to do it as television, and I was a bit, at that time Netflix was getting big, but it wasn't big.
Yeah.
And it was like the Gone Girl movie had just come out, Girl on a Train was being made, so we didn't know how shit it was yet.
So you're in the fence about that one?
The book was great, the movie was fucking shit. So I wanted a movie at that point, but when I met with Left Bank, I just thought, these people will make this. They're so sick. They make The Crown. I had the whole team was there. They really got the book. So I sold it to them, but I didn't really have much input. I'm very much of the opinion, if you're not adapting it yourself, it's not your business. Once you've taken the money, that's their business. They can do anything they want with it. And I speak as a screenwriter, because sometimes I've been asked to adapt other people's books. I always look and check out the author first and think, are they going to be problematic? So they did a great job, and Steve Lightfoot did a great job. And I went to the read-through, and that was really good, and I thought they did amazingly. And now, obviously, we've made Insomnia together, which I've written. So
yeah, we'll get on to that in a minute, but just on Behind Your Eyes, I love the fact that you're kind of always obviously guessing what's happening, who's the kind of like, it's something which you seem to use a lot as gaslighting, and you almost sort of like gaslight the reader by confusing us.
It's like an insight into my dating history. Which fucker am I writing about now? Sorry, I know there may be children in the audience, but I used to be a teacher, and this is nothing compared with... Where's Josh? One of my ex-students is actually in the house. I've got a story to tell about him in a moment.
Oh, please, no, let's hear it.
When we met in the bar yesterday, and he's dressing up on Saturday, but apparently he wouldn't dress up before he'd seen me in his normal clothes, because he didn't want to be the first time he saw Miss Pinborough. Was in high heels and a short skirt. But when I was teaching his class, I taught them for 3 years. I was at the whiteboard. This is something, how they passed their GCSEs, it's all on them, it's nothing to do with me. And they bloody did, they did really well. So I was writing on the board, and I was trying to explain some point, and I was using the NSPCC as an example, and I was writing, and then I went, oh, my mind's gone blank, how do you spell NSPCC? And they all looked at me and went, NSPCC? I said, oh yeah. And then when I left that school, I was teaching media studies at A-level, and I was talking about mise en scène, and I was like, oh, that character, what's his name? The one that was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And they were all like, Indiana Jones? I was like, Jesus Christ, this is NSPCC all over again. So,
was it a choice to leave teaching?
So Josh was like, the first thing I was like, NSPCC? I was like, fuck you, I can say that now. He's 32 now, it's disgusting. He's the same age as I was when I was teaching him. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. I think Josh should stand up so people can see what. Stand up, Josh. Josh, stand up. Stand up. We lived. They all lived.
Sorry, you'll sit down when we tell you to, stand up.
Tuck your shirt in, Thompson.
Well, the way, if anyone's got any questions, Josh, please. Please come up to the mic and we'll put them in as we go along. Just make your own jokes, that's fine. So was that the kind of way, we came back to Behind Your Eyes, you said that you like to kind of like hand it over to someone and let them go with it. So were you on set, were you kind of involved? Did they ask you any questions?
I was in episode 5 outside the cafe, and the one thing about set, and it was the same with Insomnia, which I was supposed to be on a lot, because I was also a producer, and I kept saying, oh, my spine. It's really boring being on set. They do things 1,000 times from every different angle. So when I went to, I was doing a cameo, and the director, Eric, who was lovely on Behind Your Eyes, he said, well, you can be in the cafe, and it's going to be warmer, but it's going to be like 6 hours, or you can be outside the cafe in the cold, and it'll be an hour and a half, and you're out. And I was like, I'm an hour and a half now. So I went to the set, but I find set quite boring as a rule. It's really slow. I went once in Insomnia for a scene that I really wanted to see, and I knew it was going to be tricky. And then we needed all of us to wrangle the actors to do it because it was quite a touchy scene. So I went for that, and that was great. But yeah, I'm a hermit. You know, the reason I'm a writer is because I want to sit in my pajamas eating pizza, feeling sorry for myself, and occasionally doing that on the computer between episodes or something on the telly. So I don't want to go out of the house.
It must be something when you kind of like watch back your work being turned into a show and the choices they've made. You know, what's that moment like to see it back?
When Behind Your Eyes dropped, as the kids say, on Netflix, it was the pandemic, so there was no big like cast and screen showing. There was nothing like that. So I was allowed to go to my mum. My mum and my sister lived together, so they were my double. So I went to my mum and my sister's house. We got a KFC delivery, and I had a bottle of champagne because Left Bank had sent me that. So we had champagne and KFC. I made them watch all 6 episodes, and we got to the end, and my mother, she must have been 80 at the time, like 82 now, and she went, oh, that Adele. I was like, yeah. She went, oh. Yeah, she was all right till the aliens came. And me and my sister looked at each other, and we were like, sorry, Mum, what? The aliens? She went, you know, the brightly coloured thing. I was like, you fell asleep, didn't you? She was like, oh, yes. Around about episode 4. Great. But it was good, you know, it was great to see. And what was great was the national press hated it at first. And then Twitter was incredible, following the hashtag. I just couldn't keep up with it. And I was texting the producer, Jess. I was like, Jess, you've got to look at this. And it was going crazy. People were like mind blown by it.
Yeah.
So with books, you write a book, it gets published. Some people talk about it if you're lucky. But it's all a very slow process. Whereas the TV, it's real time. You're watching it, watching people's reactions in real time. And that was really good because I'm not very good at that kind of feeling happy about something. So if I get a new book deal, it might be an amazing new book deal, and I should be like, oh my god, I'm going to celebrate. And I'm like, okay, yeah, what next? What's next? I'm always worried about the future, the next thing. So it was really good to see that keep going for such a long time, because my friends put collages together and left them on my door, like my real life friends, you know, people that aren't writers that live around the corner. And of course it was lockdown, so they were printing out tweets. It was really sweet and nice. Yeah, it was a good feeling. It was a really good feeling.
Yeah, the nasty bit was they were all the negative tweets. It was just a hate.
Yeah, my mum was saying no. It's like, this person didn't get it either. A cute woman who birthed me.
Yeah, they were also confused by the aliens.
Yeah.
I must admit, it was a sense of when you said that, it's like, I don't know the aliens. Did I miss an episode? Did I fall asleep? Yeah, the aliens, they were my favourite bit. Yeah. I love the way your kind of characters are very ambiguous, so even the people we're following, the good guys or good girls, they've kind of got that complexity to them. So Behind Your Eyes, straight from the beginning, the person we're following is kind of like stalking this couple.
No one's nice. Even the nice character, she's not really nice, you know.
Yeah.
She's having an affair, she's friends with the wife. It's like morally, I mean, it's not even ambiguous, is it? It's morally shit. But you kind of like, I kind of tried to make it that she's not in a good place. You know, she's a single mom. She's like, her days are just trickling by. This man comes along. It's all, you know, dramatic. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a massive believer that people are nice. I think we would all stay with me. I feel like
this one's going to go bleak.
I think we would all do better if we remembered that as a species we're pretty brutal. I mean, just look around the world. It's like you put us together for too long, bad stuff.
I think it's all going all right, isn't it?
Great. So I kind of feel if we all approached everything with just remember you're a shit in your internal monologue. So don't be a shit when you deal with this situation. It'll be nicer. But you know, because I think we all think, oh, well, actually, we're all quite nice, really. Should we bomb that country now? Yeah, let's do that. You know, we can't have those refugees. They're the wrong colour. You know, like, I'm kind of like, you know, I was all for letting the Ukrainians in, but I'm also like, what about those poor Syrians over there? What are we doing about those? You know? So I kind of feel like if we approach life as in, we're basically shit, let's do better, then, you know, so all my characters are basically shit, and they think they're trying to do better, but they're not. And it's that thing about making them relatable. You think, well, that doesn't mean that they have to be good.
Well, that's what I enjoy. I think it's like there can be a push where we're having more strong female characters, but to make them too good and too worthy. And that complexity is what makes them really interesting, what makes them the character we want to follow, I think.
Yeah, and I think this whole strong female character thing, I've been guilty of using that phrase myself. But I kind of think, what I try and do now is, like, Insomnia, like, there's a tongue-in-cheek with it about she's turning 40, is she going mad? There's a lot of stuff about turning into your mother. Not that I'm, having therapy about my mother once a week. But, but I kind of feel like we should be, I'm a woman in my 50s, I don't overly feel like that, I feel like it's self-delusional. I don't feel that it makes me old. But there's a different experience set in your 50s than as a woman in your 30s or in your 20s or in your 40s. And I think we should just be writing about women rather than strong women or older women or younger women. Women, we don't change that much. Just your arse is 4 inches lower than it was 10 years ago. It's the only difference, Sorry. If you came here for intellectual content, I think that might be the other room.
Don't worry, after a few days of the weekend, our asses are always lower than they started at.
We're all crawling to the exit gate.
I did want to get into Insomnia. I absolutely loved it. I've just finished the audiobook.
It'd be really awkward if you went, wow, things went downhill after Behind Her Eyes.
Well, the thing is, when you do this job, sometimes you listen to the book or read the book, and it's not necessarily it's bad, but it's not to your taste, and it makes it so much more difficult. So, thank you. You're right in my wheelhouse.
Thank you for reading it, because if I'm honest, when I'm moderating, I just go to Goodreads and read the summaries and a few of the reviews and take it from there.
And of course, I've never done that. Well, I did on this occasion, right? But it's like I'm an insomniac myself. Do you suffer? Because that was very, very well drawn.
Yeah, and also I noticed that in the pandemic, women especially were sleeping massively less because, like, my agent in New York, she's Irish, but she's a super high-powered agent, but also was doing the homeschooling. And I think women worried more. I'm being very generalising, but in my normal life circle, friends with normal jobs, the women seem to do all the worrying about the pandemic, and the men were like, oh yeah, it'll be over in 2 weeks, and they were like, no, wash your hands, and so I think women just stop sleeping, and then as you get older as a woman, sleep is something you're like, oh, I remember that. That was like 3 years ago, I last slept for 7 hours, or whatever. That's why we're all so fucking grumpy. I speak for myself. So I think lack of sleep, until you suffer from it, you don't realise how all-encompassing it is, and you just you lie there, and people say, why don't you get up and do some work? I'm like, why don't you fuck off? I am busy lying here trying to sleep. That's what I'm trying to do. Like 3 night-old down. I know the packet says 2. But it's that sort of just. And then the next day is a drag. And when I started to research it for the book, 12 days of sleep and you are dead. 12 days no sleep, you're dead, that's it. You're hallucinating by day 7, I think, day 5, and then you're dead by day 12, So I was like, okay, this could be fun.
Well, it was an interesting one for me to read because, like, I'm in my mid-40s myself, so not that far away from the point of birthday. I got insomnia, anxiety, ADHD. Sorry?
Have you got a menopause?
I have a menopause, yeah. I had one of those last week. But it's like, it was just reading this book, and especially when I've got an event coming up, so you're getting ready for that, so you're not sleeping as well as usual. And you do get that thing of like these small little insanity, like you forget something or misplace things, and then reading the book, it's like, what, have I killed my mum now as well? It's like, you really, you did a number on me with this book, I'm not going to lie. So is that kind of, you seem, again, it's another thing you seem to do, is kind of take a very real world situation and then just expand it out to kind of like these other realms.
Well, this one had a weird incarnation actually, because after the read-through for Behind Your Eyes, the main producers of that, Suzanne Mackie and Jess Burdett, both have now left Bank. Suzanne's got her own company, Jess is at Netflix. But Suzanne, who was the big boss, said, we need something else like this, let's come up with something. And in TV, it's always like, let's have a meeting, and you're like, yeah, right. And Suzanne, being the classy bird that she is, said, we're all very busy. I think we should go to a really posh hotel overnight and get drunk and see what we come up with. And me and Jess were like, all right, that sounds like fun. So just took a car and everything, and we went to this really nice hotel in Oxford. And so Suzanne was a single mum in her 50s, I was in my 40s, Jess was married in her 30s, a career woman, trying to do everything, her husband sort of more stay at home. And so we started just talking about how the one thing we all had in common was we didn't sleep and had a lot of guilt. Like female guilt. It's like, oh, what do I feel bad about today? I'll find something, And so it kind of came about from there. And then we went to bed, and I couldn't sleep. And then I just came up with this idea about these numbers, and like if someone was repeating these series of numbers over and over and over, and what would that mean if you had children? With that trauma being passed down, and then the whole story kind of just... So I got up in the morning and I was like, but what can we call it? We've got this woman, she doesn't sleep, and I don't know, I haven't got a title. Jess just looked at me like, insomnia.
I'm losing so much sleep over this, I don't know what to call it.
I don't know what to call this thing about no sleep. So it started off as television. So I was writing the first episode, and then I thought, I owe a book. Do I really want to have to come up with another idea? So I was
Work smarter, not harder.
I was like, would you mind if I wrote this as a book as well? And then, like an absolute fool, I thought, like an arrogant fool actually, I thought I could write them both at the same time, the book and the TV. This is not an advisable route to take. So after some time, I was like, yeah, the TV's going to wait. Let me just write, because the editors were like, have we got a book coming? I'm like, still editing episode 1 because we don't know how it ends. Maybe if you write the book first.
I thought the insomnia felt more authentic as the book went on.
So then I stopped, wrote the book, and then went back and then wrote the TV. And thankfully, Seb at Paramount had read the book. So when we took the pilot to him, he knew where it was going. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm on board for this. And literally just greenlit the show there and then. So it was really good, yeah.
Well, one of the things I found really relatable about our protagonist was the whole thing of when she's in that kind of manic state of no sleep, and she keeps on making like another point. She thinks if she just does one more thing, it'll all be okay, and we've all been there. Was that personal kind of touching there?
No, I'm kind of, mine's sort of, I mean, I am a very, very, very lazy human being. I could be a brain in a jar as long as I could still work the remote control, and eat. So a brain and a mouth and a hand in a jar, that would suit me. So my insomnia literally is me lying in bed just wanting to go to sleep. I could get up and do more practical things. But I do think it's a really weird, all the worst parts of your brain come alive when you can't sleep, don't they? It's always like, oh, I've got an itch. Oh, well, that's cancer. Wow, I'm going to be dead in a year. Oh, well, I've done nothing. I haven't achieved anything. I didn't even run that 5K. I started it. I failed. Your brain does that to you in the night, which I find quite fascinating. That kind of negativity that comes out with insomnia. Yeah. I mean, that could just be me.
I can imagine it might be therapeutic writing this one as well, because it seems like there's a lot of arguments that I'm like, did this happen to Sarah? Are we working through something here?
I think, like, for me, I wanted to have some fun with it, in that there are women's fears. Like, I wanted to have a laugh with the whole, and I don't think it is a female fear so much anymore, but people always say, oh, turning 40, da, 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 da. So I kind of wanted to really heighten that and make a joke out of that. And also, I'm fascinated by this thing that women have. Sorry, blokes, but it's quite a female-centric book. But that we're born, and our mother is the absolute central person to your existence. She is your God. You love her with everything you have. By the time you're 13, 14, if someone says, oh, you look like your mum, what the fuck? No, I don't. You sound like your mother. No, my aunt even said to me the other day on a Zoom from Scotland, she went, oh, you do look like your mother when you laugh. And she went, sorry. And so I'm really fascinated with this fear we have of turning into the person that literally made us, baked us. So I kind of wanted to add that as well. So, and it's about coming to see your parent as an individual rather than what you remember them as.
Yeah.
It was, I told my mum I just made it all up. But, she never read it.
And you said about the TV show, so that's coming soon? Tell us.
I'm allowed to say,
yeah, what can you say?
End of spring. We thought it was October, that's speeded things up with the edit somewhat. We've got Vicky McClure, her off of Line of Duty, and loads of, I saw her in This Is England, loved her in that years ago. But she's been amazing and very different. We've got the lovely Leanne Best, who is amazing, she plays Phoebe. We've got the very hot Tom Cullen. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, I think I might have just Me Too'd myself. But he is very good looking.
Yeah, I believe Brad Pitt had a film schedule kind of.
Brad Pitt couldn't make it. Apparently, he'd heard weird things about the writer. I must be there for costume fittings. I just really did cancel myself.
When's the costume right? Never mind, just take all that off. It'll be there in a minute.
See what we're working with, Brad. Sorry.
You weren't planning on returning to teaching, were you? Because.
But I think it's really, obviously I'm involved in the edit process, and it's looking really slick. It looks like a much more expensive show than it is. They've done, Vicky's amazing. So I'm excited to see people get confused by it. And you guys won't, because you're my people. Whether you like it or not, you are my people. We're all weird in here, let's not pretend otherwise. Especially you, I've noticed. So I think, I'm hoping people will like it.
It's just why I'm going through the menopause still. One thing which I really enjoyed in the book is really brutal, it's very hard-hitting. Is that continued in the TV show? Did you have to soften anything for TV? Because
I didn't think the book was that hard.
Oh!
The book's the TV show is quite creepy. It's creepy.
Yeah, maybe it's the creepiness that kind of gives me.
I think emotionally it's got more emotional. Behind Your Eyes is arch, it's fun, it's a nod and a wink, it's good fun. Whereas Insomnia is a bit more emotionally charged. The stuff that happened to them as kids is more emotionally real. I think that stuff is all in there. I changed a lot for the TV, so the actual backbone of the story is the same, but there's, obviously it's 6 parts, you've got to expand stuff. So now when someone said something about the book, I'm sometimes like, really? Did that? I forget the book and the TV.
Well, I think for me, the reason why maybe it kind of came across more, but it was just because there's stuff around her kids. When she's kind of on that edge of insanity, I guess it's that kind of feeling of unsafety, that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
Because I think we've all had those moments where our parents, or we as parents, have just had a moment where we just lost a little more than we intended to, or they've lost it with us. Yeah. And that fear, I kind of it was, that felt very...
That is in there. Yeah. And, I think her fear of frightening her children is there, is real. I mean, she's really been amazing. Because the character in the book is not necessarily a warm character. And the minute we were at the read-through, and Vicky started to read Emma, me and Charlotte, the producer, we were like, oh, this is going to be good. And then when the sister dynamic started, the two of them are so good together. And they look quite like sisters, but the acting is great. I'm really pleased with it.
Was it as you kind of envisioned it, or was there kind of some nice surprises in there?
Well, I think because I'm so in the DNA of the show, you know, I wrote it with a, you know, so it's pretty much, it's pretty much how I saw it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not very good with casting. Like, I know what I don't like, but I wouldn't be able to say it before I saw it. So they would send sheets of like, these people are available. What do you think about this person? I'd be like, definitely not her. And not necessarily because they were a bad actress, but just not for this part. But as soon as Vicky was on it, we were like, oh yeah, she's really good. It's really good. And so we made her wear high heels. She was like, I never have to wear high heels. I'm always a policewoman, or I blow things up, or you know, like she's now like got these really like super high heels and stuff.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing her do something just so different, because as you say, she's played a lot of police officers.
Yeah, and they're always very contained characters, and this is about an unravelling woman. And so she really, it was a real eye-opener of the depth of what she can do, you know?
Have you ever had that kind of sort of like really out of control feeling that she gets in the book?
I don't think so. No, I'm quite a controlled person. I appear very ridiculous, but I'm very contained.
Oh, we like ridiculous right here. You're fitting just fine.
No, I don't think so. Not, you know, not since I was about 23 and doing ridiculous things in nightclubs. You know? I think those days are long gone. Like one glass of wine and I'm like, ooh, bedtime. So, yeah, no.
And you like referring to yourself as being, oh, you're lazy, you like to sit around stuff, whilst you're doing a TV show or book. And
yeah, but physically lazy. No, I like working on lots of different things, and I am doing far more TV. Like I've adapted Death House movie. We should be filming next year, I think. Next spring, we're aiming to film that in Ireland. So that.
Or whereabouts?
I don't know.
Oh.
The producer just said, we'll do Ireland. I'm like, all right, sounds good. So I think it's good tax breaks and it'll look good. We can do the island there and, you know. And my book that comes out next year, We Live Here Now, we're just, I'm in the very lucky position of having a lot of people wanting the rights for that, so we're just deciding. I think they've got till next week to get final offers in and then deciding who to sell that to. I'm adapting 13 minutes for Carnival television, so I've just done the pilot, I'm just on draft 2 of the pilot, so hopefully we'll be taking that out in a few months. Yeah, and A Matter of Blood, which was my first book in England, I've done the pilot for Red Planet, so we're taking that out as well, but things are still a bit iffy post-strike.
I was going to say, if you haven't got much on, you just say, it's fine. It must be just so surreal just to see so many things take off at the same time. Has it been sort of like...
Well, I think, like, people often talk about imposter syndrome. I don't have that. Mainly because I think if you have a big debut, you might get that. But I started off writing books for leisure, books in America, which were paying me $2,000 a time. I was full-time teaching. So I worked bloody hard to get here, and I still work bloody hard, and I still lie awake with the fear, which I think all good writers have, or are successful, or will be successful, or however you... I think I see some on Twitter and stuff, and they're so excited by themselves that I'm a bit like, how did that? I just think if you're not kept awake by the fear that it's all going to fall apart, or you could be better, or you're not being good enough, then I don't think you're ever going to expand your craft. You know? So if I always want to be better, I mean, I don't have pretensions to being some great writer, but I try and do better, you know, every time.
Well,
and fail quite often, but I do try.
But do you give yourself a moment, though, to celebrate the success and so much happening at the same time after you struggled? Like, you know, you had to work while you're writing and do so much.
There are weird things, like, and it's a much maligned topic. People don't ever talk about money, but money is funny. You know, like, there was a moment when, so the part of this strike was Netflix and stuff weren't paying residuals, blah, blah, blah. And I got a text. So I didn't even write the TV for Netflix, for Behind Your Eyes. It was just my book. They took it, they paid me well. They paid me again well when they started filming. And then I got a call from my film agent, and he was like, oh, you've got a nice surprise coming in a week or so. And I was like, oh yeah. He said, and at first I thought, why is Sony ringing me to check that I've got this money in? Because I thought it was £300. He said, and then I realised it was £300,000. And that was my share of extra money. So it was money I was not expecting. It's one thing when it's money you're expecting, but it's money you're not expecting. It was like, oh my God. And my dog was like, I think I need a new treat. Maybe a toy for me. But I'm not a very things person. And I'm half Scottish, so I'm like, very much, these things could all fall apart tomorrow.
Oh, and if you're not expecting money to come in the bank, it's there. You're so worried about spending it in case someone takes it back.
That's going over here. But, and I have been lucky with book deals, and so I realised over the pandemic that actually I'm in the very fortunate position because I didn't go out and buy a big house, and I didn't go out and buy a big car, and there's nothing flash, like I still like a Primark bargain. So I could stop writing tomorrow, I'd be alright. So I then decided that actually, why am I trying to write to a market or this, that, or the other, and I just want to write what I want to write now, and if it only sells 10 copies, and telling myself I'd be fine with that. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back if that happens. But I kind of now like, you know what, I know this industry pretty well. I've been published 20 years at the end of this year. I've had the roller coaster. Yes, and amazing because I am only 30. I've had the ups and had the downs and I've been between. And so I'm now kind of like, you know what? Just write what you want to write. And luckily, Sam Eads at Orion was like, hey, come to us, we'll let you write what you want to write. So I'm going to hold her to that and see how that comes out. So I kind of was like, the money is always the weirdest because you spend a lot of time where all of us, whether you're a teacher or whatever, a nurse, and I look at the way the world is now with bills and electricity, and I think, God, if I was teaching still, even at a good level, as a one-income household, running a car, paying bills and stuff, that would have really impacted my life. So I'm very lucky to not have to, that I can put the heat on or whatever.
Yeah.
So now, there are some weird moments, but as a wise and equally miserable as I am, a friend of mine said, doesn't matter how successful you are, how much money you get, you still got to live with you. It's like money makes you happy for like a month, and then you're back to being, if you're a worrier, which I am, if you're anxiety ridden, which I am, if those things are not going to go away. You just hate yourself more for not being happier because you're not going away.
It's always something to hate about your own self.
I know.
And you've written for Torchwood as well, which I was kind of very interested in, because that seemed like a really kind of good fit to your style as well. That again is that thing of like the everyday and the kind of otherworldly.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky with that in that I was still teaching, and I wanted to not quit because I'm not a great believer in sacking the day job too soon, but I wanted to take like 6 months out to write what became the Dog-Faced Gods trilogy. And a friend of mine, Mark Morris, was writing Doctor Who novels, and he said, oh, BBC Books are looking for people to write Torchwood novels. And this must be, 2008, 2009. And he said, you need to come up with a couple of pitches. And I had not, at that time, watched Torchwood. And I was like, I would love to, I love that show, I absolutely love it. So I ran into the next classroom, and this is all terrible, I mean, this is so dodgy. But my friend's husband was very good at the computer at that time. And I was like, Lucy, I need all of Torchwood and I need it by tomorrow. And she was like, I'm on it. So, and obviously I really liked it. So it was
that's relief.
So I came up with these 2 pitches and they bought them. And the money from that, I think it was like £5,000 a book. It wasn't like huge money, but it was enough. And they were only 50,000 words. But those 2 books made me feel confident enough to take 6 months of teaching. And I said I'm going to write each one in a month because I thought they're only 50,000, so you haven't got lots of subplots. You get other people's characters, they're fully formed. You don't have to worry about that. And so that I never went back after that. They gave me the money to write, the time to write Dog-Faced Gods, and then I sold them to Lance, and that was that. So yeah, but they were done. I really liked. But then because I'm a writer, therefore quite egocentric. When I see Torchwood now, it's, my characters. Really not my characters.
And it was interesting for a novel that you got John Barrowman in for a fitting as well. I'm starting to wonder about this.
Yeah, he was there. He was brown. They're like, they're in my cupboard. Please, can we come out back?
I think he's out of the closet long since, I thought.
Different cupboard.
You mentioned Dog-Faced series, and I just saw this wonderful quote from Jim Steele. It isn't a dystopia, it's merely a little crappier than our world.
It's our world now, basically. It was a dystopia in 2010. It's now, like, it's 2012. Yeah. I think I said it in 2012. So I was like 10 years out. It's very much present day, really. The NHS is fucked, and, you know, there's Trump-style people, and, it's that kind of story.
I always find it fascinating when you're creating your own world like that, like literally where you're setting in dystopian kind of near future. There's so much to kind of keep in your head around what you've written already and what you're adding to it. Do you find that easy? Do you kind of map anything out? How do you go about that?
I've got a lot of notebooks, you know, so I don't kind of world build pre-writing. But as you go, I think, you know, I mean, the thing with that trilogy was I was writing that one and the Nowhere Chronicles at the same time. So I'd write one Dogface Gods, one Nowhere Chronicles, one Dogface Gods, one Nowhere Chronicles. So they're both trilogies. So by the time I was on the second Dogface Gods, the first one was published. So there were moments when I was like, shit, I need to change. I can't go back and change something. Like, I learned then, don't put dates in unless you really have to. But it did.
It's that kind of thing, yeah. Because everyone notices.
Yeah, but also like you've then set a time there. You can't change. So I had to. It made for much more interesting plotting. It taught me a lot about plotting and taking your time. So actually, it was and people will always pick out things that you get wrong, you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing 2 more fairy tales. So the Poison, Charm and Beauty, we're doing a beginning and an ending. So I'm doing Magic and Blood. So the top of tale, they're going to get a big re-release. But they want a map. And the one thing I have learned is that I have no spatial awareness. Because I've got this notebook and I'm trying to put where these kingdoms are in it. And then I'm like, oh, right, well I've said that one's near a forest. But there's so I'm just going to hand it all over and say, someone make that map work. And just say, world building is not my thing. I just think it's just little flavours and tweaks.
And I'm always kind of fascinated by kind of what writers put in, ingest themselves from writing. So what kind of authors are you into at the moment? What kind of were your inspirations?
Well, I'm not reading massively at the moment, which is terrible. Well, I am reading actually Ali Wilkes' All the White Spaces. That I'm reading because I do quite like Arctic horror. That is definitely an Arctic horror. But I'm very TV motivated at the moment. I watch a lot of Constellation. I'm really enjoying. I loved Foundation. It was great. If it's on telly, I have watched it because I am a massive work avoider. So people are like, have you seen this film? Yeah. I've seen everything. But reading-wise, I'm having a bit of a glut, and I think partly because I get sent an awful lot of psychological thrillers, and I am really bored. I'm bored of writing psychological thrillers, so I'm really bored of reading them. You know, so they come through and I open it, I'm like, oh my god, first person, present tense, where's my baby, where's my husband? So I kind of, even if they're really great, mentally I'm kind of switched off. So I'm trying to go back to more horror, that kind of stuff. I've got Fourth Wing to read because I'm curious, you know, people can be very dismissive of these really successful books, but I often think they're very successful for a reason. And so I'm curious to see what is making that book tick. So yeah.
You're saying you're getting a little bit bored of writing with that same genre at the moment. So have you got something you want to move more towards? You're saying horror there, or is that something you want to work with again in your own work?
I think I would quite like to. I mean, I really like a real world base. I do like a real world base, but I do want to move more into. A little bit more horror, a little bit more fantasy stuff. Like CJ Tudor, who's coming here next year, I said to her, I was talking to her about this then, I said, it's got you written all over it, Kaz. She's going to fucking love it. Excuse my... Why am I saying excuse my French now?
Yeah, so far I think we've been okay.
I should have just come in with a t-shirt that says parental advisory.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say, well, just fuck on it. Just, get it all out there.
Yeah, this is that, all the words are here.
Apologies to any kids in the audience.
I haven't said word, and I think that's a win.
Yeah.
We've got tomorrow, there's tomorrow, people. When it's just a minute and I'm running out of vocabulary, all bets are off. And forgotten the question.
Yes, I
was distracted by a fart.
Well, she's been nasty about me suddenly, I don't know. obviously, touring around all the book fairs and stuff must be something you used to. But what's it like coming to something like this, which is so different?
I was at Canberra Sands.
I got a mixed reaction.
It was quite something, the Canberra Sands experience. So I kind of knew what it was like. But yeah, I mean, I remember then it was a very. I did the Just a Minute, and I did it with. I mean, it was quite a high ground Just a Minute panel. There was Jared Crombie, there was China Mieville, there was Toby Whithouse, and there was me. And we all kind of said we'd do it, and we hadn't realised how big an event Sci-Fi Weekend it was. And we saw this crowd gathering, and there was like 2,000 people watching this thing. And we're in the green room, and we're like, we need booze, someone get booze. So someone went off and got some drinks. And I was still vaping at the time, and no one else in that panel was a smoker. So I'm puffing on my vape, and Joe was like, give me the vape, give me. And then Tony was like, I'm going to have a go, give me the vape. And China had a go. But it was so funny, and we had such a laugh. And then when we came off, like, I was not a big author or anything, you know? And like, Joe Crombie was huge, China was huge. And obviously Toby had written Being Human, and they were all big, and then there was me. And I came off the stage, and I was actually chatting to the backstage guy, the guy who did the staging and stuff. We were having a little chat. And my then boyfriend came over and said, Sarah, you've got to get to the signing table, there's a queue. And I was like, yeah, not for me. There for China. And he was like, no, they've all got your book. And because we'd done Just a Minute, like, the audience had been like, yeah, they're all right, we'll buy that book. So it was a real eye-opener to, like, because none of us were sci-fi writers, but it was an eye-opener to the sort of welcoming nature of the Weekender, which is why I've not done a lot of events because of spinal issues for the past couple of years. Because also you can say to people, I've got real problems with stairs, I'm really worried about this, and I go, oh, you'll be fine, and then you turn up at the event, and like the steps to the stage are like this high, and there's no handrail, and you're like, oh my god. But I knew that of all the places, the Weekender was going to have it covered, and they really have been like that. It's been amazing, you know, like that chair be all right, let this be okay.
I tell you, when you go through, like, we were talking about the fact, I
we
broke.
did an injury conversation before we got on.
Well, I broke and dislocated my arm last year, and it's like, I've always been sensitive around people who've got disabilities. I know several people, but it's like, you don't realise, it's when in the same day you have to have one mate of yours do your shoelaces and the cab driver do your seatbelt for you. You're like, that'll humble you.
I remember, I feel like I've shared enough to share this story, and sorry Josh, I know I'm still with Pinborough to you. But I remember just looking at my upstairs toilet once I got up the stairs, which took me like 20 minutes of sweat, and I just looked at the toilet and I thought, I can't sit down that low, I just can't. I was just looked at it and I thought, how do people cope with it? I just needed something to hold on to or something. So it was like, I now have massive respect for people who have to deal with mobility issues and pain. Pain is horrible. I'm blaming my grumpiness on pain. Forever, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be like,
if this is you grumpy, please always be grumpy if I'm ever interviewing you again. It's brilliant. Just to round things up, I always find it's kind of, because we do get people of all ages at the Sci-Fi Weekender, so anyone who's looking at doing writing themselves, what's your top tips?
Well, I massively hate writing advice. Twitter's full of it, and it's very subjective. So, people will give you advice that worked for them, but that does not necessarily mean it's great advice. So my advice is, don't worry about what people tell you to do on Twitter. If you write a book, it is not brain surgery. If you get it wrong, no one dies. So it's not, I'm a planner, but I think have an end in sight for your first book, so you know where you're going. Don't get distracted by social media, just crack on. If you want advice on social media, I'm going to pass you over to my younger colleague down at the front there, who's got an amazing TikTok following. I was on the panel earlier. You just all need to go and follow all the Booker authors that are here today, actually. Yeah. They're all amazing. And I think they've also been like, wow, this event is great. But yeah, I'm just like, get on with it. If you want to write, just write. It's not, it's fun. It should be fun. It should stay fun, I think, is probably, I have to remind myself sometimes that it should be fun. It's fun.
And keep trying to be a bit less shit.
Yeah, just be, as a person as well, less shit as a writer, less shit.
By the way, if anyone wasn't here at the beginning, that's something she said. I'm not, it sounds really rude.
It's better even talking to me. Just try and be nice. I try.
Sarah's going to be over there signing, saying hi to you, selling books, and we're going to have the first X-ray of just a minute tomorrow, I'm sure. So please give it up for Sarah Pinborough!